Today we will have a short webinar on the 2023.1 updates that we have on the framework and product usability side. So Amanda's here to, Amanda's joining us from the framework team to show some enhancements and bug fixes. And then I will talk as well about some UI and selection, mostly enhancements. Like I said, this should be on the short side. 23.1 was a kind of short release. But we're still excited to share with you some of the small updates and changes that we have in 23.1. All right, without further ado, I think I'll give the floor to Amanda. She'll be the first presenter. Go ahead, Amanda.
First off, I wanted to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. As noted, it will probably be a little on the short side. 2023.1 was a short development cycle after the major release in 2023. The primary focus for this release was bug fixes, but we did get some improvements and enhancements in that I'm going to go through quickly. The first item was some accessibility improvement to the multi-window layouts in the form of border highlighting. I am going to do a quick demo of that right now. So this is the 2023.1. As you can see, in a single window layout, it looks much the same as 2023 without any additions. If I were to go to a multi-window layout, however, we did add this full border highlight around the active window to make it easy to see which window is active. And we've also added a pre-highlighting feature where you'll get that full border drawn in a lighter color on mouse hover over inactive windows. So that should give the users a much clearer idea of which window is active and which window will become active if they click on it. So that was the accessibility improvement that went into this release. A couple of other enhancements: highlighting of error messages in the TCL console. We haven't changed the content of the error messages, but in 2023, these error messages will come through in black text. They don't really stand out. We added the red text, which should give the user a good idea of when there's been an error in their command. So we did add that. We also added an update to the advanced color picker. What we did here was it's been re-implemented as a separate modal dialog, which pops up when the chevron is clicked in the basic color picker. This was actually done to resolve a major issue with typing in the edit fields. So that bug has been fixed as this implementation was put in place. So this will now come up as a modal dialog, and you are able to type in all the fields. And so those were a few of the enhancements. There were a few more that I wanted to just briefly mention because they came from the framework side, although they were covered by Stefan Eberhardt and Mikhail Stefuka in their earlier on automation and customization. But since they came from the framework side, I wanted to mention them. The addition of an HWC performance mode for command recording. Setting this mode to true allows scripts which use HWC commands that update the graphics in browser to perform those steps much more quickly, on the order of seconds rather than on the order of minutes. So this was a big enhancement on that level. Also added some framework level implementations to the Python API, including session, page, and window handling, image capture, things like that. There were also some enhancements to the extensions that went in. Those included status bar message improvements, the ability for a user to customize the icon shown in the extension manager for a given extension, as well as some additional enhancements. Again, those were covered in an earlier automation and customization one that could give more details on those enhancements. Again, most of what went in were bug fixes. We did resolve a couple of big ones that I wanted to mention. First is a fix for an issue where message boxes often appeared on the wrong screen in multi-monitor setups. This was a big pain point for a lot of people, and it should be resolved going forward. Another was a fix for an issue where output to the TCL console from a script that was intended to be output while the script was running wouldn't actually appear until after the script finished. So we have that implemented as well. That bug is fixed. And we also fixed a number of 2023 regressions that related to the single process move. So that covers my list of enhancements and the bug fixes I wanted to note. I will hand the floor back to Chema, and he can discuss the UI and selection. Thank you.
First item here I have is the advanced selection and quick selection auto sync. This option is on by default. Let me jump into the product here. So if I'm in my model and I invoke the advanced selection dialog, either via the button or the shortcut, which is the period key, or the right-click menu, I get to the same spot, which is the dialog. And this is the new option here. It's on by default. So whatever method you have here, if I used by component last to add some components, and then I'll hold the Alt key, and I'll be able to perform the same to add or remove some components. If I press the shortcut, you see that it's set to the same. And since that option is still on, if I want to change, for example, to by face, I can add, remove, and also change angles from here. So I'll be able to add some faces. If I go then to the advanced selection dialog with my shortcut, you see that it will be set to the same one. So I might change some more settings here about, if I need more advanced settings for the same. So yeah, that is the multi-way sync that we have. Like I said, it's on by default. If you want to keep them separate, for example, if you want elements to stay on by face by edge, which was the previous setting, you can just turn it off, and then they'll be independent again. Some more tweaks to the Alt quick selection menu, especially if you use the shortcut. You will see slight enhancement. The UX now it's a little improved. It now shows you actually the active method, which was something that we were missing before. So now if I click the comma key, which is a shortcut for this by default, you'll see the menu. It'll show you the current method highlighted. If you change it, the next time it'll show you that. And it also grays out the methods that are allowed but not available right now because of the model. So now you have a little bit more live feedback on that. Another enhancement for quick select, selecting by path. Before, to remove things by path, you had to use the full dialog and change the mode to remove. Now it is available in, you had to do by path, and you would need to change this to remove if you wanted to remove by path. Now, if you assign by path to the quick selection method, you can use Alt and you can use Shift to deselect by path. The only thing that won't be available in that case will be there's an advanced option here to do the fill path loops. This is the one, if you don't remember, that you can create paths and then middle click closes the path and fills in the inside. This option is only available here in the dialog. So through Alt, you will not get that one. But other than that, now you can deselect by path using Alt and Shift. Small enhancement here also now, if any tool requires you to select individual edges, what we call iffy edges in the selector, by path was missing. Now we added support for that. So now you can select the edges by path. This works via nodes. So the GUI will ask you to pick nodes, and it'll calculate the edges along the path of nodes that you select. And you can also turn on a preview for it, just like the other bypaths. I think this is the same for full edges. We use nodes as well when you're selecting edges, and we get them from the path of nodes. The workflow should be seamless, should be exactly the same. You click on endpoints, will fill the path, and you can use middle mouse if you want to interrupt the path and start a new one. Another interesting enhancement we did is the selection of single entities using window select. So some workflows ask you, and in the EE, sometimes when you're assigning things like a coordinate system for material or etc., it will. Previously, we didn't allow you to drag a window because you're supposed to select a single one. But sometimes, as we know, sometimes it's tricky to select some things when, especially small things like systems and vectors, and if your screen is busy. So now, if you were to invoke a single selector, for example, here, picking the system, depending on the camera angle, right now I'm able to do it easy, but depending on the camera angle, sometimes it's tricky, like here, for example. So now, even if for a single selector, you'll be able to draw a window and select small things easier. The way that it works is it'll work only if you get one. If you have multiple things and you draw a window and your selector is supposed to be single, the selection will be rejected and you will get a message saying to pick only one, please. We are trying to make this a little smarter. We would have liked to, if you have multiple, that at least to pick the one that's more towards the front based on the Z buffer of the graphics. So we're working on probably enhancing that. We couldn't do that with the tools that we have today, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to do that and just pick the one that's in the front. But this should help with picking small entities. Also, the review shortcut is now available in the graphics. So this is something that was there in the browser before, but in the graphics, I think we didn't have the shortcut. You had to do the right click through the right click menu of the review. So now we've synced the same shortcut. There was also a little bug in 2023. I think if you go to the configurable shortcuts, there was some confusion between the shortcut for show hide IDs, which is Control Q, and review, which is Q. I'll just show them quickly here. So show IDs is Control Q. That's the one that you show the IDs on the screen and you hide them. And then we have review Q. So now that's corrected it was correct in the right click menu, but it was incorrect in the shortcuts editor. So now that's been corrected. There's some options in the preferences as well. There's a new section for accessibility where we've added for people that have certain restrictions with color, that we added the accessibility color palette with the auto color in last release. But now you can also, when you do auto color, we do this random colors from it. And now you can actually limit the RGB ranges when you're using the random auto color method. So you can restrict if there's a particular range that you have trouble with or that you prefer not to use, you can tweak it here. So you'll never get a color. When you use auto color, you'll never get a color that bothers you. And then there's also this option for changing the font size. I just want to make a note that is on the graphics only, not in the GUI. So if I go here, just search for font, you can see if I change it, it'll change these type of labels, extra large. So it's tags and labels basically. Just FYI, is not the UI. But that option is there now. Then we also have a new option for the controlling the mouse behaviors in idle. We used to have this option, auto append selection, that used to control both. Now we've split that into two, so you can configure if when you're in idle, if you like that every time that you click it replaces the selection, or like in the other tools that it automatically appends, so you don't have to hold control to append. And also we have optionally you can turn on and off the fact that when you click on empty space, we will clear selection. That has been the default before in idle. If you don't like it, you can change it here now. So you can control if you need to hold control for appending, and also the way that we clear the selection if you click on empty space. There's also some options that were missing that were added. This is something that was there in Classic, the lighting scene. For the graphics, you can change it between single light, and you can choose the position of the light. And then there's the other two multi-light CAE and CAD presets that you can try. These are the same that were there in Classic, just were missing. So we've added them back, also in preferences. All right, and then for some issues highlights, some of the issues that maybe you would be interested in. There was a sort of big issue, well, relatively big issue that we have in 2023 with undo redo that some of you might have noted. I think it came up in a few of the email chains, etc. We had an issue with focus in 2023 where Control Z, if sometimes was not working, if the UI, if the mouse focus was on an input box, any sort of UI that would grab focus, then you needed to first click on graphics before you could continue to use Control Z and Control Y, the undo redo shortcuts. That has been solved now. So now you can be in one method that was kind of bothersome was this kind of thing. If you did multiple operations and you needed to undo them in a chain, here Control C grabs this box grabs focus, and now I can continue to press Control C, and you'll be able to go back multiple steps with the shortcut. There's only one small limitation I want to mention. For now, the fix should work out of the box. Only we know that if you go to the keyboard shortcuts editor and edit the shortcuts for undo redo, hopefully it should be a rare occurrence. But if you do, then the issue will come back. So this, unfortunately, we do need to make undo redo as protected shortcuts, which we're working on. but that was not possible for .1. So just FYI, that's a limitation with this. This one, Amanda already mentioned, the color picker. We have now, when you click on the advanced color picker, it'll pop up a separate window, and that fixes the issue with typing and copy pasting the RGB values in this dialog. So that should be solved as well. And then another one I want to mention is with a custom ribbon. So if I create a custom ribbon here with a few tools, we have the option to float it. So if I right click and float, we fixed a few issues with this. We had a sizing problem with this. Whenever you floated a ribbon, it was extremely wide if you had it floating. And also now it clearly highlights the tool that is active. So I think that was another issue with this. So if I switch to this context, you see them highlighting appropriately in the floated ribbon. And just parentheses, this is something that has been available before, but just there were just some issues with it. But you can also dock them. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the floated ribbons, but that's also another practical way that you can do. So they can be docked on the right and on the left side, not on the bottom. But anyway, that's another way that you can have your custom tools, and you can have them up even while you're using other ribbons. If you close it, then it'll jump back to where it was. And then finally, just honorable mention here. Also, we added a link in the file help menu to the Altair how-to video channel in YouTube. So that's there as well in 23.1. And that's it for today's presentation. Thanks, everyone.